Hey, what is up, everyone? It's Rich. All right, welcome to a video. This is going to be a little bit of a follow-up to yesterday's video. There wasn't really any loose ends, to be clear. Um, I had considered doing this a couple of weeks ago for another video, and I thought that this would be a fun one to actually just revisit really fast for maybe 10, 20 minutes. There's a few reasons. One, there was a couple of pieces that after the fact I wanted to show the full gatefold and just didn't have it ready. There were a few pieces that I was considering doing that I opted not to do, that I think even if we did another video probably wouldn't make the cut because there's just more interesting pieces, although the albums are iconic. So I thought, hey, you know what? Antoine was nice enough to get together this really kick-ass folder for me, and he's got a lot of really great stuff in it. And so what I did is I grabbed some pieces that I probably wouldn't have done, and this piece in particular I actually like. I didn't remember seeing it, so I threw this in. This is a Roger Dean piece. But yeah, Antoine was the person that originally recommended the concept of the video. Which I loved, and album cover art is a gigantic influence on my own work, my ideas, the way that I approach composition. I honestly think, because I don't credit myself as having really good natural composition, but I do. I mean, it's just a reality of if there were tools in my toolbox, one of the tools that I have in my toolbox naturally is a pretty good sense of composition and layout. And that 100% comes from staring at stuff like album cover art a lot as a kid. I understand abstract design. My eye is used to seeing it. It understands patterns, and just a lot of the stuff that goes into layout where, depending on what you consumed probably early on in your art consumption days, that'll be the stuff that'll stay with you for better or for worse. And so luckily, my dad had a decent record collection, and the in particular, a lot of the European artists that were doing album covers or English, whatever you want to call, that they really, really understood art. There was a lot of fine art and illustration influences in the stuff, and they brought it. So anyway, but this is a beautiful Roger Dean piece, and again, Antoine was nice enough to even label them. So we're just going to go through. It's about 10 pieces, and I obviously want to thank Kelsey for the video yesterday. It was really, really cool. I mean, I didn't even get to probably 20% of the stuff I had prepared for yesterday. So there was a lot, and I said this in a tweet or a reply to someone. I felt underprepared, and again, we didn't even go through a small amount of what I had ready, and so yeah, there will definitely be multiple album cover art videos down the road, so don't you fret. This is a really, really cool piece. It's actually very cool. I love the reverse or the inverted like negative. It's an effect that I've used in a few of my own pieces, and it's always a really pretty storytelling, or whatever you want to call it. It's like a different type of silhouette that really works well. This figure is fun. It almost looks like he's holding a large drumstick, but maybe if I watch this back, I'll pick up what the whole story behind this is. I don't. Well, hold on. Let me see for a sec. I think he wrote the album. So this is Roger Dean, The Magician's Birthday Party. I honestly don't know the band. It may be a Yes album cover. I'm not gonna just assume that only Roger Dean only did Yes album covers, because I know for a fact that he did work with some other bands. So okay, so we'll shut this one. This is Dio Holy Diver. The art is by Randy Barrett, and you saw the front half of it yesterday. But if you do flip the album over, right about here, maybe a little further over, it might the crop might be right here. It is on the back cover with like the song titles, and it's actually it's a very, very cool painting. It was funny is because I did the photo parody or whatever you want to call it with Kelsey up here and then myself down here. One thing I said to Kelsey is, honestly, we nailed it. I did it so fast. I just grabbed my cell phone and took a couple of photos of myself, really not even comparing it to the record. I just kind of had an idea of what angle I thought the priest was at. And even the lighting in my office, the red curtains, it all worked very, very well. And you would have thought that a lot more work went into it than it did. And Kelsey's picture was perfect. The horns, I made the heads look a little big, but it was funny. And then I painted this out. But it was interesting as I was looking at the actual medium that this person used, and I'm assuming it's acrylic. It may be an oil painting, but if it is, he has very, very chalky looking oils. My scan that I had yesterday was a little bit more high res than this, but my scan wasn't of the full piece. Um, yeah, this very well could be oils, and just he doesn't dilute it to the extent that maybe other painters do. But yeah, it's an interesting piece, and it's a fun one. I mean, it's a great record, but I mean, really, it's about the art more. But they do combine in an interesting way, and it gave me some very, very interesting ideas that I'm going to pursue in the future. So this is Tattoo You. I mean, this could very well be an airbrush painting that they used like a halftone reproduction of, because it does actually look like a painting now that I'm looking at it. And this artist is Peter Coriston. Right, let me go into full screen mode again. The back of the album is actually really interesting too. It's like a boot, like a woman's high heel shoe with like fur. Looks like maybe black goat's fur on it or something like that. Very Hoove like. And it's just an interesting piece. I remember as a kid having this record and thinking that it was kind of weird. It's definitely not one of my favorite album covers of all time, but it's an interesting piece, and it's an interesting approach to paint a painted cover using that again sort of halftone pixelated reproduction of it. And it's possible that this could be canvas. Maybe it was airbrushed on canvas. I kind of think that these are printing dots. You know what, though? Right here, it doesn't look like it. This could be a really, really smooth oil painting, in fact. That would be crazy. It might be. That might be actually the canvas. That looks like canvas more than halftone. Wow. That actually gives me a deeper appreciation for it. I mean, look, with really, really good oil painting, if you'll take the time, you can do blends that are just ridiculously smooth. So this is Patrick Nagel. This was one that I considered multiple times. It's just there's not a lot to it, but Patrick Nagel was a very popular pop artist. For a decent amount of time, the guy actually died surprisingly young. He was probably in his 30s. The one thing that I heard about him, which may have led to his early demise, was I believe that he smoked a lot and drank just copious amounts of like Pepsi Cola. Sounds weird, but if I remember correctly, I had heard that many, many years ago that yeah, it would be like the equivalent of like Red Bull and cigarettes. So this was 1982. He really did draw beautiful women. I know that Travis Charest was definitely a fan of the stuff, and if you really think about it, you can actually see a little bit of the Travis face in this. So that's not necessarily speculation on my part. I do actually feel that he was a fan of this, and he did even a print early on at Wildstorm that was in a Nagel style. I have it. It's I think Free Fall is the one that he did in that. So this is Miles Davis, Bitches Brew. I showed the front end of it. I didn't have the back end. So this is Mati O'Clairween. So if I'm not mistaken, Mati was the person that did the Santana Abraxas cover. So that's actually kind of cool to revisit. This is a much simpler piece than the Santana one, but the other piece was done in 1961. I don't see a date on this one. Like there could be more pain. This is great. I'm actually a huge fan of African art. It's actually really like it's one of those things that I think is highly under appreciated just in general. African design is absolutely beautiful. The shapes and the exaggeration that's used in it is fantastic. I did a piece called African many years ago. Kind of it was like a pen and ink. I always equated it to like if Drew Struzan and Sergio Topi, sort of if those two styles mixed together was kind of what I was going for. Um, and yeah, I definitely, I still to this day love the way that African art looks. I think it's just really, really killer. So, and then I don't know what nationality Monty is. I'm just saying that. So this is Mark Ryden. This is Michael Jackson Dangerous. This is an oil painting. Mark Ryden, you may or may not know his work. He was very, very popular probably about 10 years ago and has kind of settled in as the internet got bigger and more artists were sort of out there. His coverage seemed to shrink a little bit compared to people that'll hustle more online. But Ryden is legit. His pieces sell for a ton of money. And he's a really, really great painter. This is not really indicative of his work. He generally draws almost like, I call him like baby doll, like weird baby doll with like meat and weird stuff. Kirk Hammett from Metallica collects his stuff. There's a bunch of sort of famous people that collect his paintings. And Some Kind of Monster, there's a scene where James Hetfield is at Kirk's house before they play I think a club show, and sounds weird because Metallica was huge at that point, but yeah, it's on the bonus features, and he's looking at a Mark Ryden painting in Kirk's dining room. If you've never watched the bonus features on Some Kind of Monster, check them out because they're actually very, very cool. All right, I was gonna do this piece. It's funny because I just consider it a music related painting, but apparently it was on the cover of Marvin Gaye, I Want You. Let's get the artist credit. Ernie Barnes. Okay. I mean, I don't know how much more iconic you can get for something pop culture. This is just, it's like if you were a kid and you watched the show, you just always were like zoomed in on this painting. It's really, really cool. And I'm glad that he threw this in because I didn't realize that it was a record album cover, and I just always equated it to like a painting that was in a TV show that I would watch as a kid. But yeah, it's great. This is a nice reproduction of it too, and Marvin Gaye is a badass. So, well, it's funny. Last night I was listening to James Brown live at the Apollo. I was on music. It's like they cover all types. It's like an audiophile site essentially. This is another Struzen. And they were talking about the tightest bands. Tightest bands or performances that you've ever heard. And someone threw out the James Brown live at the Apollo. Someone to check it out and see just how tight his band was. Apparently, James would actually fine his musicians if they messed up. It would come out of your pay. It's interesting. That would be a high pressure gig. So yeah, this is Drew Struzan. Welcome to my nightmare. He's working in a little bit of a Leyendecker style. If you go back and look at enough of Drew's early work, you will absolutely see Leyendecker isms throughout his work unabashedly. And he does it real well. Struzan's legit. It's different than what he ultimately ended up doing for maybe the movie posters that Star Wars or Indiana Jones fans would be familiar with. But man, he could do a pretty nice Leyendecker. This is an interesting album too. I was never ever into Alice Cooper. I always thought it was kind of a cheesy gimmick, and I eventually, was about a year ago, gave his music a chance. It's actually very good. I was surprised. He's super talented. The music is actually a lot more complex than I thought that it would be. And it's cool. It's different. It was not what I was expecting. I was pleasantly surprised, I have to say. This was another album that I considered, and I've never liked this piece very much. I'm assuming it's Boris. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a fan of the album, and I don't really like the painting for whatever reason. It's just weird. I hate to say that I dislike it, but yeah, I don't know. It's a little bit of a miss for me. I'm one of the few. Well, I don't mind Boris's art. I actually, for what he does, I think that he's actually quite good. But yeah, I don't know. This just. I was never. Well, I appreciate Jakey Lee more now, but the Jakey Lee albums to me were just I was into Ozzy, Diary of a Madman and Blizzard of Oz, and then I kind of warmed up to the Zakk Wylde stuff a bit more. But yeah, Jake, I was just getting into different stuff at that point. We were really into Dio, Vivian Campbell and Dio. But this piece is cool. I actually like the lady. She almost has a little bit of like a Vampirella Harris kind of, Alex Nino, like that kind of stuff that you would see in like Vampirella, the black and white magazines. And It could honestly, it could literally boil down to Ozzy's hair. I hated his hair at this time. I just never got into like the whole poodle rock thing, and this is just leaning close to poodle rock to me. It's like if you're gonna grow your hair out, grow it all out. Not don't cut your bangs short. Okay, so that was it. All right, yes, I just wanted to follow up with that. Thanking Antoine for uh recommending it and for doing all the work on the thing. And Antoine, I will go through the other pieces in our follow up video. It'll probably be in January. We'll revisit this. And as Kelsey said, we would like to actually do one on photograph albums also, but we tried to keep it in a somewhat narrow lane because, as you can see, there's a bazillion illustrated, painted, digital. I mean, there's so much art. So what I'll do is we go into the next one, I'll have an email address that people can email me the files that they want me to do, because I was getting them sent an instant message and I'm taking screenshots, saving them on my phone, and it was too much to try to get it all on my computer to set it up. So yeah, I'll have an email address and people can just send it to me directly, and we'll cover it all. I mean, I don't mind looking at stuff. I don't need to be a fan of the band to look at the album cover art, and I just like to see art. So even if a piece is a miss for me, I still will look at it and try to figure out what I like about it or what I don't like about it, or what it is. So the analytical part of these videos is always worthwhile. So, all right, I want to thank you all for tuning in. Tonight, Eric Canetti and I will be live at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're going to go over 40 Days in the Desert by Mobius, and Eric is going to draw while we do the video. And so it should be very exciting on many fronts as we go through a really, really killer Mobius single page sequential story that is super weird and super well drawn. And we'll get to watch Eric Canetti create a piece live, which will be fun. And Blaster Kid, please go to the pre-launch page. We will be doing more announcements next week. Kelsey and I both hit a patch of just very busy, and I'm out of it now, out of mine, and he still had some stuff, some loose ends. So don't worry, just because we weren't talking about it. It's like, I don't like to hype things up and hype things up and hype things up, and then nothing is really transpiring. So anyway, but everything is good to go. So all right, I will talk to you guys later. Have a great day. Bye.